I wanted to talk about this idea of alignment, going with the flow, trusting the universe. And I know it's come up in themes in other videos, maybe some small little bits, also maybe some things on Instagram, but it's just something that keeps coming up for me. It just sometimes just kind of amazes me how plans and paths keep lining up. And so I think some examples are around, I'll have like an intention to go somewhere, and then someone else will say, "Hey, I'm going there too. I also want to go to Munnar on the same timeline as you." Or there have been times where, in fact, I was trying to go to Munnar and I kept trying to make plans and things kept not happening. And I was getting a bit frustrated. And then again, I just had to let it go. And then, of course, that's when I met someone who said, "Hey, yeah, I also want to go to Munnar." And then Hannah, a friend of mine who lives in London and is in Kerala for a few weeks, happened to be messaging me around that time. And I didn't actually realize she was in India as well at that moment when she was messaging me. And we happened to connect, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to Munnar." And she also wanted to go to Munnar and was so on board with this plan and the dates and timings that I had. And it was just funny when I look back, I was getting frustrated when my other plans to go to Munnar just weren't working out, but in some ways they were working out. It was the universe, some higher power, creating some, I guess, just creating a path where it was saying, "Hey, no, these opportunities that you've thought up aren't the ones that are meant for you. I have this better opportunity for you to go and spend time with someone you already know, someone who is from Kerala, who, in the short time that we spent together has just opened my eyes up to so many things about Kerala culture, Kerala cuisine, different ideas about, what it's like to live in India and go to school in India. And yeah, I guess that timing was just meant to be that way. That how awesome, how awesome to be just, making your plans as you go, and then them working out that you'd be traveling with someone that you know, and just to have really good company. And it wasn't just her. There was another guy that, there's been tons of people I've met along the way. I'm just using this as an example, but another guy that I had met in Berkeley, he wanted to go in that same direction too. And all three of us just got along so well. And, both of them are doctors, so they had a lot in common. And we just also just had a good vibe. He was quite funny, quiet, but when he would make a joke, they were good. Um, and I think there's just been other little signs of things along the way where, you know, I don't know how to describe them. I think usually it's been people and pathways, right? Of having an intention to go somewhere, and then somehow other people having that same plan or path. And, there's been a couple of times where to be honest, I've only been in India for a couple of weeks. Haven't, I've explored a bit, but I haven't had every single experience yet. So I remember feeling a bit like, oh, to take a public bus by myself, what is it going to be like? And I know I can do these things, but sometimes it's just nice to have someone to go with the first time. And even today, I'm taking a train later today, and there was a little apprehension in the back of my mind. I've been prepping myself for what it's going to be like. I know it's so silly. Like, there are a million train stations. I've been to a million train stations across the world, but I guess it's some of these fears that are put in you from externally of what things are like, and all of that maybe psych you out a little bit. And it just so happens that there's this guy staying at this hostel who is also taking the train. Not to the same place, but I just feel like, oh, okay, it's so funny that I had been trying to make these plans, and then, the universe has sent someone who will just, accompany me along the way. Maybe it's just to give me that extra little confidence boost. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about these things. And then in general, I think I've been getting little messages from different places. Sometimes it's been something I've read on Instagram, and I know that that sounds so silly, but I feel like there's been a couple of, posts or things that I've read that I've been just astonished with how accurate and pinpointed it's been to my situation. Someone I met when I was in Surianelli, I just had a brief chat with him, and then I think our chat got interrupted. And I was telling him about my experience in Bali and how when I first went to Bali, I was trying to do all these things, spiritual and yoga related, and they never worked out. And there was always something else that worked out for me. And so my opinion of Bali is, yeah, it's great, it's wonderful, but I didn't have that type of spiritual experience that other people talk about. And I had a spiritual, or I wouldn't say spiritual, but just a more connected experience in Bali in ways that I guess made more sense for me or were important for me, which was watching the sunset and, doing yoga by myself in this beautiful yoga, um, what do you call it? I want to say chalet. That's not the word. I don't know why I've lost my words for what I want to call that thing. But this was a few years ago. But so I was telling him about that, and we'd only had a very short conversation, and then later he sent me a message on Instagram to just say that, the universe is always working with your goals, even if you think you're off track. Like, check back on what your goals are. The universe is this, what did he say? Goal reaching mechanism. It has this automatic way of working with your goals if you allow it, if you truly allow it. Now, I was sort of caught off guard by that message because we had only chatted quite briefly, but sometimes, people see something or they have something to say that is meant for you to hear at that time. So it was nice to hear that and have that little message come my way. So I'm sharing it with you as well. So in case there is some goal you're working with, and if you feel like things aren't working out, maybe just take a moment, step back, think about what your goals are, and trust that there is some bigger plan, that maybe you need to go through some momentary frustrations or things that seem like they're not working out in order for the right plans to come into place. And I guess also interestingly is I'm reading this book right now, and I'll tell you the name of it later. I want to finish reading it before I can give a full review on it. I think I'm already getting a lot of value out of it at present. But this has happened to me many times in my life where I've had a book that I have tried to read or I've had the intention to read. I've intended to read a book, but I've just never been able to read it. So one example is some of the Eckhart Tolle books. The first one, which is, oh my gosh, what is it called? It's gold. The cover's gold and orange. It's Not the Power of Now. I can't remember the name of it. Oh goodness. A Whole New Earth, maybe? Someone tell me what it's called. But you know what it's called. You all know what it's called. But I had that book with me for years. Tried to read it, couldn't read it. I'd read the first couple pages, couldn't read it. But when I started getting deeper into yoga about 3 years ago, I inhaled that book. I opened the first page, it all made sense. It just came to me. It was meant for me to read at that time, and it helped me make sense a lot of yoga, but also a lot of my own experiences. I guess similar with this book, I had bought it months and months ago, and I thought it was something I would read well before my trip. I already knew that I was coming to India at the time that I had gotten that book, and I took it with me on trips. It's been in my bag, and I don't know why I decided to take this book, because it is heavy, it is hardcover, it is thick, and I packed it with me, and I'm reading it right now, and it is just resonating so much with my experience around being brave, even though I don't really think that I'm being brave, but around taking risks, doing things that are off the beaten path. And it's so special that I have this book to read and accompany me at this time. And if I had read it at another time, I don't think it would have, I think I still would have loved it, but I don't think it would have given me the experience that it's giving me now, where it's able to reflect back to me what I am going through, and also giving me some motivation and ideas and food for thought, and also validation. So just a message, just a video, I suppose, or journal, some reflections to say that, just to remind you, to remind myself, probably more so, that everything is working out, and to relax further into it. So I hope this gives you something to think about. Whether this is the time for you to hear it, I don't know, but maybe this will find you in that right time that's meant for you as well. Bye. Love you loads. Speak to you soon.